President Donald Trump is now a criminal defendant. Trump appeared stern during yesterday's court proceedings, but his bravado was back by the time he spoke to his supporters last night at Mar-a-Lago.
Our justice system has become lawless. They're using it now, in addition to everything else, to win elections. But now they have really stepped up their efforts by indicting the 45th president of the United States, who received $75 million votes, which is more than any sitting president in the history of our country.
Okay, so joining us this morning with more on the political fallout from the case is political analyst Tara Dowdell. So welcome back, Tara. Good to see you as always.
Thank you.
It was certainly a whirlwind of a day yesterday. So many different adjectives to use. What we saw from the moment the former president left Trump Tower to then arriving back in Mar-a-Lago. Some TV networks are saying not to air that speech, right, because they were saying it was more of a campaign speech. What did you make of it? Have you had time to really analyze what he was saying and really fact check what was going on during that 20-minute address?
Well, it was typical Trump. It was a festivus of grievances and mistruths, or as we should say, lies. He pointed out several things, and almost everything he said in that speech can be rebutted because it's just factually not true. They're just lies. And so he talked about the Presidential Records Act. That was one of his main talking points during that speech, and how it gave him the right to negotiate with the National Archives Records Association, how it gave him the right to negotiate with NARA. And that's just not true. The whole purpose of the act is to stop presidents from keeping records. And so he said that Obama and Reagan and the Bushes did the same thing as him. Again, not true. And that has been rebutted by the National Archives. They've said, look, this is just not true. What he's done is false. And then the last one, this is actually a big GOP talking point, is inflation. It's the highest it's been in 60 years. Again, inflation is high. It's high globally. It is not the highest it's been in 60 years.
So do you feel like this was kind of a missed opportunity? Because it felt like it was a repeat. You could have played a speech of his 4 years ago, and it would have felt like the same speech. So do you feel like maybe this was a missed opportunity for him to maybe focus on the charges at hand and to talk about that instead of going off into prior grievances he's had for the Democratic Party?
I would argue for him it wasn't a missed opportunity, because he can't talk about the charges because there's so much overwhelming evidence that's in the public record. There's Washington Post stories, there's PIX11 stories, there's all these stories in the media and data and papers and documents and folks that are out there that can rebut things that he said. So he could not focus on the charges, which is why Trump is many things, but a dumb man he is not. And so, as I said, and I said this yesterday, he's going to deny, distract, and deflect, and that's exactly what he did, because he has to do that.
Let's talk about some of the other things that he addressed. And that, by the way, we're looking at the speech, and it was very interesting. In the audience was Mike Lindell, the former CEO of MyPillow, who's being investigated by the FBI. Roger Stone was in the audience, who is convicted. So let's talk about, though, what exactly is playing out in Lower Manhattan, right? We have the DA that he has now gone after, and this judge, which he now is seemingly going after, addressing the fact that he had a Trump-hating judge during that speech. Does that hurt him legally?
Well, I think he's going to have some problems because he is inciting people, right? He's inciting people to violence. And we know that some of the people who have committed violent acts in this country have said in their manifestos that it was in Trump's name. So I think that he's on a slippery slope. I think at some point the hammer is going to come down. He's eluded justice for a very long time, allegedly. And I think the hammer will come down, because people are not going to put their families and lives at risk. And which is exactly what he's doing by going on Truth Social and saying all these things and really directing people to harass and attack people.
And not only referencing the judge, he referenced the judge's family.
Yes.
Children. And his daughter, yes, exactly.
And now that we know the charges, though, how much is this going to affect the campaign? I mean, this is what he wanted. He wants the attention. And the campaign trail, I mean, that could go fast, but the legal process is long. So he will continue to be in the headlines.
Well, I think that for Trump, I think he's going to put forth an act that he wants this. He absolutely does not want it. I think his body language, and from having known him, from having been on The Apprentice, and I knew him actually before I was on The Apprentice, having known him, I can tell you that he is not happy about this. He's going to try to make lemonade out of lemons, but this is not something that he wants. He wants attention. He does not want this kind of attention, because this kind of attention can lead to actual criminal, criminal prosecution, right? Or it has led to prosecution, but actually him being prosecuted, right? So I think what he's going to do is he's going to leverage this and use the moment because he has no choice. But I think the risk for him is the general election. In the primary, his base will rally around him. He will play the victim card. He's been playing the victim card. He will continue to do that. But in the general election, this is just a reminder of the tawdriness and all of the things that he's done over a 40-year period. Some would argue 50 years. That is going to be a reminder to independent and reasonable voters. And those are the voters that make a difference.
All very interesting. I'm sure we'll be talking to you a lot. I forgot you were on The Apprentice. Thank you for reminding us. So many things have played out. Everything's a blur sometimes, Tara. Good to see you as always.
Thank you so much.